I'm going to start. I'll be the moderator of this incredible panel. And hello, I'm Catarina Lorenzo. I'm 17 years old and I'm from the northeastern part of Brazil, more specifically Salvador, Bahia. I am also a professional surfer, big wave surfer, and also competitive surfer. And I'm also a global climate activist. At 12 years old, I filed a complaint called the Children versus Climate Crisis Petition in the Committee of the Rights of the Child, where I spoke with 15 global children at the UN, and it was on the issue of climate change and children's rights. I'm also a member of the leadership team of Air Oceans, part of the child advisory team of Child Rights Connect, member of the SOS Vale Encantado group collective, and I'm doing a fellowship in UNICEF for the Leading Minds Climate event. Finally, I'm the founder of Eco Clube Sustentare, which is my sustainable and environmental educational project in Brazil. On behalf of Aluna Foundation, UCLA, University of Massachusetts at Boston, and UCLA Lab School, I would like to thank you all for the opportunity to bring our voices to this important summit for climate crisis to climate resilience. It is with great honor that we are here with your excellencies, mayors, governors, scientists, and academics. We, the children, we are the most vulnerable for the multiple crises that we're facing today. Our education is affected, our mental health is affected because climate anxiety is a problem. Our health in general is affected. And I think most importantly, our childhood experiences and development is affected. We are facing the consequences of problems caused by neglected responsibilities of past generations. We are said to be the future, but who's taking care of our present? According to UNICEF, 1 billion children face extreme risk to their ability to survive, grow, and thrive due to exposure to the impacts of climate change. That means that nearly half of the world's 2.2 billion children are living in areas of extremely high-risk climate events. These areas are not prepared to face this event. We're talking about places with no basic sanitation, no access to water, and with precarious education and healthcare. We are also talking about places of indigenous and traditional communities, where the destruction of the surrounding areas or areas within those communities leads to biodiversity collapse and an increase to vulnerability. This data has been available for a few years already, but yet only 2.4% of the main climate funds support programs that consider children and our specific needs. How can effective action happen if there is no support or finance? Right now in the summit, we have the opportunity to discuss and deal with the present threat, which is the climate crisis. I hope that with this panel, you're able to understand how us, children, view this poly crisis we are facing and what solutions we believe should happen. Hopefully also inspiring you all to join us in our effective action for creating a better tomorrow. Now to start, beside myself, beside myself and my incredible colleagues who are joining me today, I would like to present an important message from 25 children from 12 countries, presenting their concerns, ideas, and solutions for real issues related to climate negotiations. We would like to share with you all the video called The Important Stuff, which is a film that was produced by Instituto Alana and also UNICEF to raise awareness, engage, and sensitize delegates and negotiators to child rights and climate action. This film was first screened at the Climate COP28 in November last year, and we bring it here today as another way of amplifying children's voices and inspiring you all. Video will play now.
It's a lot more hot.
Estão queimando aqui na frente da minha casa, bem aqui. waxay nuu saameeyeen abaartii oo kale biyo la'aan ayaa nugu dhacday waxaan dareemay baahi iyo cabsi weyn.
É chuva todo ano, são casas destelhadas todos os anos.
Jer je sve bilo drugačije tada kad se desila ta poplava. Morali smo da se iselimo iz domova, da idemo u druge gradove.
dadka waan cimilada waxba ma aysan ka qaban.
فلوس كتير لكن زمان لو كانوا عملوهم من بدري كانش يحتاج كل المبالغ دي.
I bet all they do is fight about, I think we should do this, no, I think we should do that, no, I actually think we should do this.
طبعاً لو ما اتخذنا إجراءات لتغيير المناخ راح ندفع الثمن في المستقبل.
Well, no offense, but you guys only have a few years left to live. And meanwhile, I'm 11. I have my whole life to live and I want to live it.
Adultos, se vocês não estão lembrando, vocês têm que cuidar das crianças.
وأنا نحن لازم نحافظ على بيئتنا لأن هذا كوكبنا نحن ونحن لدينا المسؤولية لكي نحافظ عليه.
Stop fighting for once and let's focus on the important stuff.
Que culpa que eu tenho de morar na frente de um rio aberto, de eu dar água suja para minha filha nos tempos de tempestade?
Ifapete katika yetu no tenen que sair naquela carambola e tumbo, sei? De meto fumega ou sair na tika. Se vocês continuarem queimando, a gente vai morrer nesse calor.
Stop talking about and actually do it.
Klimatske promjene su mnogo moj život upropastile, moglo bi se reći.
Well, I hope you were touched by this video as I was. And yes, I'm the moderator of this panel, but I would also like to ask for a moment where I can also share my own experiences as a climate activist child in Brazil. For me, nature has always been my safeguarding space. My childhood took place in the middle of the Atlantic forest and Bahia beaches. For me, climbing a tree was normal. Stopping cars for wildlife to cross streets was normal. Taking care of nature was normal because taking care of nature is taking care of myself. Jesus himself said that we should love others the same way that we love ourselves. These include nature and all life on this planet. I never realized how privileged I was until much later. I never realized that not every child had the same opportunities as me until much later. Even if the right to a safe, clean, and healthy environment is a child right. The more I grew up, the more I saw changes start to happen in the ecosystems I grew up in. Oceans were more polluted, especially because in my city, the local government opens up sewage tubes when it rains a lot and dumps it all on the rivers, polluting entire beaches. Because of this, I can't get into the ocean. I can't practice my passion in my sport because I can get sick. But the worst part is that the life of the location gets destroyed or intoxicated. Traditional fishing communities and people like my grandfather who depend on the fish he catches to eat are impacted. When I was 9 years old, I felt another consequence of climate change. I felt the ocean water temperature rise to an extreme high temperature, even when I dove and touched the sand. And I also saw the coral reefs of a natural coral reef pool that I spent my entire life white, like a skeleton. They were dead. But it does not stop there. Recently, a huge heat wave hit Brazil. And one of the places impacted was my city, Salvador. The heat waves were so bad that I had a really hard time concentrating on my studies, and I couldn't stay home, so I had to run for my refugee, which was nature. Happily, my first activist fight that I'm part of until today, actually, is the protection of a local forest called Vale Encantado in my city. Together with the beaches is one of my favorite places in the world and a place that I went to during the extreme heat waves. What would I have done if it weren't for the forest? What do other children do when they do not have access to natural biodiversity places like Vale Encantado in the middle of the cities? This is why it's essential to protect the biodiversity as a top priority of countries and states. Yet, if the biodiversity was destroyed, then it has to be restored. Education, more specifically climate education that empowers children for green skills, but also teaches them about climate justice, is also essential. Policies and laws that make responsible big pollution corporations and incentivize innovative sustainable local businesses is also essential. And finally, we're on a child panel, so it is essential that high-level spaces include children meaningfully. To finalize, I would like to call attention to a problem that's happening in Brazil right now. If you're not aware, Rio Grande do Sul is suffering from a huge flood. More than 150 dead, more than 150,000 families without a home. And you can actually support Rio Grande do Sul right now by making a donation to trustworthy organizations. Yet, you can also support them by working towards mitigation and adaptation for the climate crisis, by listening to science and to youth and children like us who have protagonized the climate fight, warning us of catastrophes like this. I pray for Rio Grande do Sul, and I hope that those who are here today can come out of these panels with a vision of the world that children want to live in today. Thank you. Well, now I would like to invite my colleagues who are joining me today to share with us their message. We are representing the children from all over the world, bringing our voices to such an important event. With that, I have the pleasure to invite Lou Lipman, a 12-year-old with origins in the United States, Bermuda, Mexico, and Guatemala. A 6th grade UCLA Lab School student, Lou Lipman is passionate about raising awareness about climate change and encouraging others to take action. Lou has been working locally in Los Angeles, speaking at multiple marches to support climate resilience. They aspire to be an international advocate for the environment and for environmental justice. The oldest of 3 siblings, they play the flute, love being outdoors, swimming, hiking, and reading. Thank you, Lou. Please take the floor.
Hello, I am Lou Lipman, a 12-year-old. My pronouns are they, them. I have lived most of my life in Los Angeles. Living in the sprawling city of Los Angeles, I have grown up with pollution, water contamination, oil drilling in the middle of the city, fracking, factories, and more cars than people. Just outside of Los Angeles, California is a desert and Mediterranean climate that is home to some of the largest commercial farms in the world. These farms are full of foods you probably enjoy, like oranges, rice, almonds, and pomegranates. All of these plants grow and thrive in California, but they are not native plants. They make California prosperous, yes, but they take water from natural resources and aren't good for those areas. One of my favorite parks in Los Angeles, Kenneth Hahn, has oil drills less than 50 meters away. These choices made are all reflective of the values of excessive consumerism. Los Angeles has the highest amount of nitrous oxide in the USA, one of the leading chemical human-created causes of climate change. Me and the people in my life have experienced impacts due to climate change. Just 3 years ago, Los Angeles was in an extreme drought of over a decade that caused horrible air condition and extreme heat. Kids in my class were experiencing huge asthma attacks due to this heat. And at the time, I was 9 and did not know or did not understand what was going on. Around the same time, we also experienced historically large fires that destroyed some of my classmates' homes. School was also canceled due to these fires. In the past 2 years, we have experienced atmospheric changes that have caused lots of rain. This led to an unnatural swing in weather and caused flooding, freeways falling, landslides, flooded streets, and school to close again. We've had trees fall in our school due to the drought weakening the roots, followed by flooding. The trees falling have blocked play areas and canceled playtime. These impacts of climate change have become the new normal for me, my friends, and kids around the world. The USA has spread the idea of excessive consumerism to the world, including urban pollution and extraction of natural resources. All this urban pollution and extraction affects other parts of the world. When more natural resources, or when urban pollution gets to parts of the world that are less populated with more natural resources, those resources are impacted hard. Water usage in Los Angeles and California doesn't come from the ocean. Water comes from faraway natural resources, destroying them. Our consumption causes carbon emissions. These carbon emissions and extractions of resources reach rural areas, which add to deforestation already happening. This becomes a vicious cycle of deforestation causing heat, which causes carbon emissions, which causes more deforestation, and so on. The same is happening in the oceans. Our urban actions lead to unjust impacts across the globe. As children, we have inherited a dying planet. We're young and want to grow old on a beautiful planet. You created the rules, and you should be the ones to fix it. We have the right to grow up healthy and able to learn, not worried if the planet will be there for us as adults or for future generations. We, as kids, have the power, chance, and responsibility to make change. You should be the ones fixing this. You created the rules, but we can break them and remake them. Because if we don't stop climate change, it will stop us. Please make the change we need. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Lou. What an impactful statement. And yeah, if we don't stop climate change, it will stop us. And now I want to invite another 12-year-old, Carlos Bautista, also from UCLA Lab School, from sixth grade. Carlos Bautista hopes to have a positive impact on the behaviors of others when it comes to environmental issues. His environmental activism was in part inspired by various classrooms and teachers' activities, including his works on projects related to air pollution and the LA River. The oldest of three siblings, Carlos enjoys being outdoor, playing soccer and swimming. He also loves puzzles and games, as well as playing the piano and violin. Please take the floor, Carlos.
Hello, everybody. I'm 12 years old, and my name is Carlos Bautista Reyes, and I am from California, Los Angeles, exactly, and I have some roots in Mexico, too. Flooding is one of the most common and coastal natural disasters in the world. The risks of flooding, wildfires, storms, droughts, and rising sea levels are impacting climate change all over the world and in my immediate community. According to NASA, sea levels have globally risen about 5 to 8 inches in the last 100 years because of the major changes in our climate. These changes are not slowing down anytime soon because of our irresponsibility and careless behaviors by us humans. The heating of our Earth has caused our oceans' waters to increase by 0.13 degrees Fahrenheit every decade. This might seem like a small increase to some, but just this amount of change is causing the ice caps to melt in the Arctic, not only impacting the life of the animals living there, but also causing the sea levels to rise. This rise in sea levels impacts places around our world, like New Orleans, USA, Venice in Italy, and also Amsterdam in the Netherlands, causing horrific floodings and endangering the lives of many. While my immediate community is not impacted by flooding, I have been impacted by increase of torrential rainfall due to atmospheric rivers, a newer phenomenon in Los Angeles. In previous years, our community was suffering from a drought, where the trees in my school were becoming weaker and weaker because their roots were suffering from lack of water. With the heavy rains, the weight of the water at the top of our large redwood and eucalyptus trees have been so heavy that the weakened roots were not strong enough to hold this added weight and caused them to fall unexpectedly, putting my friends and I at risk, but also sadly losing some of our trees in our environment. What we need is movement to combat such drastic changes in our climate. We need people, communities, states, and countries to work together to reduce the use of fossil fuels, excess gases like carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide, which pollutes our air and plays a role in warming our atmosphere. Families and children can help in a small but impactful ways like using bikes, scooters, and skateboards, and even public transportation to get from place to place instead of always driving their cars. Then you could grow from there as the communities work together, these small changes make big improvements in our world. I want to call to action to anyone in the world to help us send a message to come together to combat climate change. Our Earth is dying. Many do not want to believe or face this fact, but this is a real challenge we have. I haven't even lived half of my life, and my future and the future of our generations after me do not look optimistic or even possible if we don't make changes now. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Carlos, especially for touching upon the topic of unity and of this for doing this incredible call to action. Now, moving forward, it is my honor to invite 18-year-old Danisha Howard Oliver. Danisha is a senior at BCLA McCormack and has excelled academically as a student in Boston Public Schools and has been an honor roll student throughout her educational career. As a senior, Danisha has already begun her college journey by taking a course in business science. Danisha feels we must have a sense of urgency when thinking about climate change to create a better environment for future generations. She is enrolled in an environmental science class this year where she has deepened her understanding of how politics plays a role in our thoughts, beliefs, and climate. You may have the floor.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm hoping that you guys are all enjoying the panel so far. When discussing the topic of climate change, there's a big conversation that comes along with it. In Boston, Massachusetts, there's construction being done all day throughout the city. When construction is being done, a bunch of those fumes are contributing to the greater cause of global emissions. Certain places where construction sites are taking place also have a very huge population of homeless. A factor that the city doesn't consider when deciding to have all of their construction done is how it will affect people who unfortunately live on the streets. With these constant construction sites, the air is very, very difficult to breathe in. Additionally, sudden changes in weather can cause a greater harm on farming and other activities happening in the United States. These changes can cause severe problems for our food supply and money that people will invest in for growing these foods as well. The goal is cutting higher percentages of carbon. What I know about climate change is that it's quickly taking over and destroying our world. There are multiple factors that come along with it, such as greenhouse gases, solar radiation, and human actions as well. One of my main questions when talking about climate change is, what was the turning point that caused all of this chaos and consequences that we do know of as today? The answer is us, humans. I will never understand how, as a society, we barely take affirmative action to see some positive improvement in climate change. There will always be people of higher power who undermine the catastrophic effects of climate change. This worries me because the mistakes that we don't improve today will only be passed down to future generations and continuing to worsen our planet. I believe that this is important for people to learn about because, especially in the United States, we have had multiple million-dollar weather and climate disasters only within this past year. Some ways I think we can reduce climate change would be trying new ways to reduce greenhouse gases, using solar panels, and restoring the marine ecosystem. I will go through many obstacles to better our world and make it a safer place for my younger nieces and cousins to live in the future with minimum worries. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you so much, Danisha. I thought something that really resonated with me was when you connected the problems of affecting the farming and how this affected the populations in the big cities as well, showing how we're all connected. And thank you so much for sharing your experience in your community. Now I have the pleasure of inviting also 18-year-old Sashoy Sanchez, who is also from Boston, but originally from Jamaica, and is also a senior at BCLA McCormick. She also excels academically as a student in the Boston Public Schools and has been an honor roll student throughout her educational career. As a senior, Sashoy has already begun her college journey by taking a course in medical sciences. Sashoy is interested in climate change expressing that we must have a sense of urgency with efforts to reverse the effects caused by our daily lives. She is taking a course in environmental science this year, where she has developed an understanding of the changes in weather patterns caused by daily human life. You have the floor, Sashore. Thank you.
Hello. As Katerina mentioned, I'm originally from Jamaica, but I now live in Boston, Massachusetts, in the United States. Although I've lived in the United States for a long time now, I've only recently truly learned about the matter of climate change and the severity of it. For those who may not be familiar with the term, climate change is when the Earth's temperature increases and stays at that level for a very long period of time, affecting not only the ocean levels, but crops, animals, and plants, air quality, etc. Growing up, I heard a lot about moving to Mars in years to come, but that wouldn't have to happen if we as a collective came together and collaborated in order to fix our home and make it as healthy and sustainable as it was before we tainted it. I believe climate change should be addressed more often in a more serious and urgent way. Although some people may not notice the effects of climate change and global warming, it truly does affect our day-to-day life a substantial amount. Climate change can lead to weather changes. For example, a season that's normally known for its cold temperatures could be becoming warmer, leading to a more extreme change in the ecosystem. Everything in the ecosystem is connected. Therefore, everything will be affected by the change in the climate. My thoughts on climate change are simple, really. I wholeheartedly believe that we as humans are the cause of climate change, and just like we are the cause, we can also reverse it. As I've learned in my environmental science class this past year, rising sea levels, melting glaciers, and an increase in weather events are only occurring due to our lack of understanding and awareness about the situation we are putting the Earth in. With the amount of greenhouse gases that are released into the atmosphere every day, we are bound to lead our home to becoming inhabitable for the coming generation. The planet is something we should all be treating with the utmost of respect, and it's taken entirely too long for us to realize this. Some things we could do to implement a change would be adding more forestation. Locations with trees take in carbon dioxide in the air and it'll clean it, releasing safer and more sustainable compounds, such as propane, for example, back into the atmosphere. Additionally, another change we could implement to reduce climate change would be to decrease the amount of greenhouse gases we expel into the air and lessen the amount of carbon dioxide we use. There are many ways we could go about doing this, but to start off, I'd suggest we begin by using less fuel for vehicles. Instead, we could invest in more affordable electrical cars that would not require gas, ultimately leading to cleaner air. Some more additional ways in mitigating the effects of climate change is transitioning to renewable energy such as solar, wind, and hydroelectric power, enhancing energy efficiency in buildings and modes of transport, protecting the wilderness that is still around us, and ensuring that it is growing, and simply just advocating for climate change and bringing attention to the issues that the planet is facing is more than enough help towards reducing the impact of climate change. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Sashore, for that statement and also for sharing your view of solutions that can be taken. Now we are going to have my fellow Brazilian. Important to say that if you don't understand Portuguese, you'll need translation. But my fellow Brazilian, Maria Helena Garrido, she is also 17 years old, born in the Amazon and raised since her earliest days in Tumbira community, Iranduba, which is a sustainable development reserve in Rio Negro. She is a young riverine woman of mixed indigenous and white ancestry, leading a very simple life, but of great cultural value. Since childhood, she has been participating in events and initiatives within the community. She is a student at Thomas Eugene Lovejoy State School, where she is pursuing her high school education. Among the various projects she participates in are Forest Reporters, focusing on digital communication for youth, the Artistic Training Program in Cinturita, the Sports Project Let the Mana Play, and the Agroecological Practices Project, focusing on rural development strategies and sustainabilities from a multidimensional perspective. She also participates in church activities and in the photographic essays of the Enchanted Beings project. She enjoys soccer, studying, cooking, and crafting. Finally, she is the daughter of Isolina Garrido, and she accompanies her mother whenever possible in activities related to caring for people in the environment. Thank you so much. Pode começar a sua fala.
Olá, pessoal. Eu sou Helena Garrido, tenho 17 anos e venho de uma comunidade ribeirinha chamada Tumbira, localizada na Reserva de Desenvolvimento Sustentável no Rio Negro, no município de Iranduba, estado do Amazonas, na Amazônia brasileira. Represento centenas de jovens e crianças ribeirinhas, indígenas, quilombolas e de todos os grupos que vivem na mais diversa Amazônia que existe no Brasil. Venho de um lugar onde os rios são nossas ruas, nosso alimento, nossa vida. Venho da floresta, onde as árvores são nosso oxigênio, e venho trazendo comigo as lembranças de 2023. Um cenário onde o reflexo das ações humanas afetou a vida de todos os ecossistemas. Tivemos a maior seca de todos os tempos, vi rios mortos, animais agonizando, peixes morrendo, pessoas passando fome, sem comida, sem água e sem oxigênio. Vi crianças e anciões, vivi e vi junto com eles a falta de tudo, principalmente a falta das vidas. No Brasil, cerca de 40 milhões de crianças e adolescentes estão expostas aos efeitos da crise climática. Temos estiagens prolongadas e enchentes descontroladas, o que muitas vezes nos impediu de ir à escola ou acessar outros direitos básicos. Fica difícil pensar no nosso futuro como jovem. O que teremos, o que as crianças terão? A escassez da abundância toma conta do mundo. Muito ar e não podemos respirar, muita água e não podemos beber, muita comida e não podemos comer. Não podemos plantar e criar, muita terra e não podemos viver em segurança. A destruição da floresta amazônica afeta não apenas o meio ambiente, mas também a conexão emocional e espiritual dos jovens com a natureza, principalmente a minha. O que para muitas apenas é uma casa a ser defendida, para nós, a defesa da casa é da nossa casa de acolhida. A responsabilidade de cuidar da casa comum deve ser de todos, tem que ser planetária. O planeta é a nossa casa e tudo que tem vida tem direito de existir, tanto nós, humanos. Gostaria que houvesse menos guerra por poder e mais luta pela vida, que lutassem pela vida, que lutassem conosco, que defendessem conosco, que ajudassem a proteger e cuidar das pessoas. É importante que as gerações mais velhas e os jovens trabalhem juntos na busca de soluções para os problemas ambientais. As gerações mais velhas precisam garantir um mundo habitável para as futuras gerações. As mudanças climáticas mudam tudo. A nossa resiliência de enfrentar tudo com fé em Deus é o que nos mantém com a esperança de curar nosso planeta desse poder de destruição. A mudança deve acontecer enquanto há tempo. Precisamos da ajuda de todos e possamos ter uma história para escrever novos capítulos da existência da vida humana e de todas as formas de vida em abundância. Obrigada.
Eu quero, primeiramente, nossa, que fala forte e essencial. Muito obrigada por compartilhar sobre a sua experiência com os impactos da seca e como isso impactou sua família. E me tocou muito quando você falou que a gente precisa de menos guerra de poder e mais luta pela vida. E agora, I'm gonna switch to English. Now, I'm finally pleased to invite Francisco Vera. Important to say that if you also don't understand Spanish, he will be giving his presentation in Spanish, so maybe you'll need translation. But Francisco is a 14-year-old from Colombia. Francisco is a defender of human rights, climate justice, and peace with nature. Creator of the Eco Esperanza Con. He's the founder of the Guardians por la Vida movement and the Goodwill Ambassador of the European Union delegation in Colombia. He's also a child advisor to the United Nations Committee on the Rights of the Child for General Comments number 26 for Children and the Climate, and the ambassador of Our Voice, Our Future campaign of the European Union Diplomatic Service. He's the first UNICEF Young Advocate for Climate Action and was awarded at the Youth Activist Summit YAS 2023 by UN Geneva, Switzerland for his contribution to a more inclusive society with climate and social justice. Finally, he participated in COP26, 27, and 28, and in multiple advocacy spaces demanding children's rights and climate justice. Thank you, Francisco. Gracias. Puedo hablar.
Bien, muchas gracias y muy buenas tardes a todos y a todas los presentes. Como todos sabemos, ahora mismo pues la humanidad entera está pasando momentos muy difíciles, momentos verdaderamente duros, llenos de dificultad y turbulencia, así como desesperanza y oscuridad, guerras, hambre, también bastantes violaciones constantes y periódicas a los derechos humanos, así como a los derechos de los niños y por supuesto un deterioro ambiental considerablemente significativo, ¿no? Que nunca antes habíamos visto y producido por el ser humano, ¿no? Una triple crisis planetaria, una crisis que contiene tres elementos esenciales: la pérdida de biodiversidad, el cambio climático y la contaminación. Esos tres elementos. Y si nos fijamos, todos los problemas, los retos que he mencionado, tienen una característica en común, y es que amenazan a la vida, amenazan la existencia precisamente del ser humano y de la humanidad entera, el futuro de los niños precisamente. El día de hoy yo quiero traer a la mesa que la crisis climática, la crisis planetaria, es una crisis de los derechos de los niños. Y por supuesto, como se ha dicho antes, estos actores de todos los, digamos, de los grupos poblacionales y etarios más afectados terminan siendo los más vulnerables, los que más expuestos están a riesgos y violaciones precisamente de sus derechos, como a su vida, su bienestar, la educación. Les hace falta tener acceso a servicios esenciales y sus necesidades están desatendidas. Como lo decía, no solamente por la crisis climática, sino también por la guerra. Ahora mismo estamos viviendo los momentos, los niveles de violencia más altos desde el fin de la Segunda Guerra Mundial, precisamente. Más de 55 conflictos armados activos ahora mismo. Gracias. Más de 55 conflictos armados activos ahora mismo, tanto internos o entre dos o más estados. Y un genocidio en curso precisamente en Gaza, una población civil indefensa, la cual está siendo constantemente sometida a bombardeos, hambre y también desesperanza. Así que los niños del mundo, el reto de los niños del mundo es precisamente luchar por sus derechos y por su futuro, así como por su esperanza que les ha sido quitada históricamente. Vivimos en una sociedad basada en el patriarcado y creo que de ahí proviene el problema. El problema no es la crisis planetaria, es la consecuencia de un problema, de un modelo de sociedad que pone a las mujeres, a los hombres por encima de las mujeres, a los adultos por encima de los niños, así como a los seres humanos por encima de la naturaleza. Y se ve en la potestad de maltratarla, destruirla y explotarla. Así que es el momento de... Muchas gracias. Es el momento de replantear esa sociedad. Ese es el llamado que quiero hacer, replantear nuestra sociedad hacia una sociedad biocéntrica, que ponga en el centro a los niños, a la vida, a la paz y a esos valores y principios que hemos perdido como humanidad y como sociedad y que hoy nos tienen precisamente donde estamos. Es un momento de reflexionar y, como lo ha dicho el Papa Francisco precisamente, de pensar, de decir qué cultura queremos, si una cultura para la vida, de la vida, o una cultura para la muerte y de la muerte precisamente. Ese es el mensaje que yo les quiero traer el día de hoy aquí y instarlos precisamente a incluir a los niños, porque los niños no solamente somos el futuro, también estamos y somos el presente. Eso quiero que quede muy claro, porque aquí estamos para traer un cambio. El presente y el futuro nos pertenecen y es de todos, y no podemos dejar a ninguno y a ninguna atrás precisamente por sus derechos y por su futuro. Y también una sociedad que pierde la esperanza ya no tiene nada que perder, ¿no? Es una muy buena frase en español. Cuando se pierde la esperanza, ya no hay nada que perder. Por ende, el reto de nuestra generación es la esperanza. Y creo que en Jesucristo, de hecho, encontramos una gran fuente de esperanza. Porque la ecoesperanza, ese concepto que de hecho está aquí escrito en mi libro, no sé si lo voy a alcanzar a mostrar, aquí está. La ecoesperanza es una esperanza basada en acciones y una esperanza basada en la naturaleza, una esperanza que se aferra a la vida frente a esa declaración de guerra a la vida, como lo hizo Jesús resucitando de la tumba precisamente. Así que mi mensaje sobre todo es eso, luchemos por la ecoesperanza y quiero terminar con unas palabras muy sencillas. Nuestro presente y futuro recae en sus manos. No permitan que la historia los recuerde como aquellos que permitieron este atentado contra la vida. Cuentan con millones de nosotros alrededor del mundo para enfrentar los retos de construir una sociedad biocéntrica con ecoesperanza. Esta es la declaración de la ecoesperanza de Guardianes por la Vida, así que recuerden, ecoesperanza es el mensaje. Muchas gracias.
Well, I think everybody can agree that this was a powerful message, huh? And thank you so much for bringing the concept of the ecoesperanza because we really need hope in this moment. And I think we, the children, are part of bringing this ecoesperanza into this fight. So thank you so much. And well, also, in addition to thanking Francisco, I would like to thank Maria Elena, Sashoy, Denisha, Carlos, and Lou for this incredible statement. But we're not over yet. Okay? Now we're actually going to have some questions from me to three of the panelists, and hopefully, if we have time, some more. And I would actually like to start with a question to Lou. Lou, you mentioned many ways the climate crisis has impacted you, but I was wondering if you would also like to bring some solutions.
So, hi again. We can do the little things like being conscious when we buy, reusing and passing down clothes, composting, recycling, and riding bikes. Or, as kids, we can continue to do the big stuff, marching, striving, and striking for new systems and more fair, safe, and healthy habits. And we will continue to do this stuff until we see the amount of change we need. We can be your allies or fight against you as world leaders. We need to change the views of the world and the effects of our actions in our everyday lives. Many of you have power, so please don't make excuses and use that power for greater good and for the future of our world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lou. And now we're going to have another question. And sorry to pass through the questions, it's because I'm trying to get best questions for all the panelists. But now, Sashoy, you have actually mentioned that you are originally from Jamaica. Would you have any experience you would like to share of living in Boston, but coming from another country?
So I am originally from Jamaica. I moved up here when I was 4 years old. And what I can say the biggest difference between Jamaica and Boston should be is the weather. I don't know as many of you know. It has been getting increasingly hot in Boston. It's kind of sort of like I'm back in Jamaica. But unfortunately, not only is the heat increasing, but so is the water level. I live by the coast of Boston, so there's a lot of water on that area, and any type of rain is going to flood. Unfortunately, that is the life that I and so many other people are enduring, but I can say that these two places are becoming very similar in a negative aspect.
Thank you so much, Sashoy. And now we're going to have a question to Maria Helena, which I'm going to ask in Portuguese, and is also going to answer in Portuguese. Então, Maria Helena, você comentou sobre os impactos da seca na sua comunidade. Pode falar um pouco mais sobre como essa seca especificamente impactou você?
Provavelmente eu sou a única menina daqui que veio representar o Amazonas. Passei por uma série de dificuldades junto com meus irmãos e várias outras crianças no Amazonas. A gente apresentou, no meu discurso eu disse que a gente passou por alguns impactos bem ruins, mas o principal foi os traumas físicos, emocionais e socioeconômicos significativos para os habitantes e na região amazônica de onde eu moro. Que também impactou, eu parei de estudar, fiquei sem estudar a metade do ano, durante 5 meses no máximo.
Muito obrigada, Maria Helena, por compartilhar essa experiência. E agora, switching back to English, and now we're gonna have a next panelist answer a question. So, Carlos, I have a question for you because I heard that you commented a bit on how there was a tree who fell in your school due to a climate hazard. Would you like to comment a bit more on how you felt with that experience?
Yeah, thank you, Katarina. Yeah, I actually was a witness of when a tree fell down in our school. It's actually been more than it's been like 3, I think, trees, and they were big. I've been a witness for one of the branches that actually fell down. It was we have 3 yards in our school, and this one landed in the play area where the 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds actually play. So I actually witnessed when that actually branch fell down, and luckily it didn't hit anyone. But when I saw that branch fell down, I was like, whoa, that was like that's scary because my sister actually plays in that playground, and I was like, oh, I'm so glad nothing happened because I love my sister with all my heart, and it actually alarmed me, and I think it alarmed other people around me actually eating, and it actually like shocked us like really bad. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Carlos. And now I actually have a question for Danisha. We actually were discussing before how in Boston, you mentioned some air pollution problems. How did air pollution affect you and your family?
Okay. So with living in Boston, transportation has always been a sort of issue. And I have always been a bus kid, whether that be a school bus or the MBTA bus, which is just public transportation. Also with the construction sites, they do happen literally throughout the entire day from early in the morning up until probably like maybe 11 o'clock at night. And with some of those construction sites, it really does happen near my school since I do go to school in a public area. And we have to walk kind of around of those construction sites. And it could be very much of a hazard because of the thick air. Sometimes you have to try to breathe through your mouth instead of breathing through your nose to get some sort of, I don't know, like actual oxygen in your body because that's how difficult it is to breathe. And then there are also kids who do have some sort of health condition, whether that be asthma or just on any heart condition as a whole. Because myself, I do have a heart condition called cardiomyopathy. And sometimes, well, luckily now I don't have major problems with my heart condition, but even with those kids, it could be any minor cause in the air that could have them have some sort of heart attack or some asthma attack that could be very severe and most definitely could be life-threatening. So I feel like we do have to have some safer resolutions when it comes to air pollution because I know we want to better our city, especially with the roads and building new buildings to bring in new resources for our kids, but we do need to prioritize their health and their safety as well.
And finally, our final question is for Francisco, who I think we all have seen is the creator of the concept Eco Hope, Eco Esperanza. And I actually wondered if you wanted to elaborate more on that.
Bien, gracias. De nuevo, I will be speaking in English, in Spanish. Bien, yo creo que respecto al concepto de ecoesperanza es muy importante mencionar La ecoesperanza no niega la situación pues caótica que se vive. En mi país decimos que el sol no se puede tapar con un dedo, porque el sol es gigante, ¿no? Entonces, el problema ahí está presente, el reto ahí está presente, pero debemos utilizar la fuerza y la potencia que tiene el problema para contrarrestarlo, para transformar nuestro mundo y hacer de nuestro mundo un mundo mejor, utilizando la fuerza del problema. Es una cuestión muy simple, de hecho, y tiene que ver con digamos, la ciencia. Voy a tomar esta hojita de aquí, y miren, la hoja de aquí, ahora, pues, es normal, ¿no? Digamos, pero ahora la voy a doblar. Ahora la hoja, inicialmente, solamente tenía un grosor, tiene el doble de su grosor. Ahora la voy a volver a doblar, y ahora tiene 4 veces su grosor, ¿no? Ahora la voy a volver a doblar, y ahora tiene 8 veces su grosor, y la voy a volver a doblar, y ahora tiene, además de 8, 16 veces su grosor. Si la doblamos unas más de 100 veces, llega hasta la luna. Eso es crecimiento exponencial. Entonces, además, la ecoesperanza es exponencial, como una pandemia. Y mi invitación aquí es poderles decir, ustedes salen de aquí, cuéntenle a otras 3 personas más y pídanle a esas 3 personas que les cuenten otras 3 y otras 3 sobre la ecoesperanza. Una ecoesperanza basada en acciones, porque podemos creer, pero si no transformamos esa creencia o ecoesperanza en acciones, nada sucederá, precisamente. Eso es lo que se necesita, acción real, precisamente. Y además, pues finalmente, una ley también física de Newton. Cada acción conlleva su reacción, precisamente, en su misma magnitud. El problema tendrá una reacción, y la reacción debe ser contundente. Una reacción colectiva y que fomente la cooperación. Necesitamos cooperar. Esto ya es una cuestión ni de las edades, ni de dónde somos, ni en lo que creemos. Es una cuestión precisamente que va más allá, que abarca toda la humanidad. Así que eso es. Muchas gracias.
Well, I think after listening to these powerful messages, I believe a reflection should be made. Children usually are talked about as the future, yet we exist in the present. We are here right now. This was something that was emphasized not only by me, but by many of my colleagues today. UNICEF data actually shows us that 99% of children in the world today are already exposed to at least one major climate event or environmental hazard or shock or stress. That is why it is essential that we take action to ensure a healthy, safe environment for all children. For the first time last year, in over 3 decades, the UNFCCC decided to integrate consideration of children's vulnerability and well-being, and the negotiators agreed to convene an expert dialogue this year to discuss the climate crisis's disproportionate impacts on children and to also review relevant policy solutions. The climate crisis is a child rights crisis because the lack of climate action, the emergency we're facing today, require us to join forces. We need to put all children's rights to a safe environment at the center of all decisions around the world. Not one, not two, I mean all decisions. It should be a topic that everybody is not only aware, but willing to act together to change it. Brazil will be the home to next year's COP. COP30 will happen in Belém do Pará, in the heart of the Brazilian Amazon. And with that in mind, here comes an idea, but also a request: the implementation of the first COP of children. For the children of all around the globe, for the children of the global south, and also for the children suffering impacts of the climate crisis, such as the children in Rio Grande do Sul. We need to be considered. Our rights need to be assured, and we should always be included in decision-making spaces like the COP. We hope that this is a legacy of COP30, a COP for children in Brazil. thinking and acting for children in the present so we can dream of a future. We are aware of His Holiness Pope Francis commitment to protect children. In 2015, he issued Laudato Si, which is a major encyclical on the environment, offering a hopeful vision that challenges all to better care for our common home. Last year, His Holiness Laudato Deum emphasizes the urgent need for immediate effective action to be taken in response to the ecological crisis and climate crisis that are developing in the last years, sadly. It is with deepest respect that we, the children, urge His Holiness to protect children in his next encyclical. Our rights need to be protected. Our voices need to be heard. Our actions need to be seen, and our demands need to be taken into consideration because children of today are going to be the future of tomorrow, and we should not discuss the future without those who are going to be the ones inheriting it. Thank you.